So welcome to the next edition of In Conversation With. I'm Matthew Wallace, and I'm delighted to be joined here this evening by a man who probably one of the most successful managers we've had in the past 25 years. I'm delighted to be joined from stateside by Mr. Ian Hughes. Ian, how are you, mate?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Hope everything is well back in sunny Wales.
I don't think so sunny tonight, I'll be honest. It's hammering down at the moment, proper November evening. So for those of you who are unaware, Ian, what is it you're doing out in America at the moment?
Yeah, so I got an opportunity to come across here in 2018 in August to work for a company called Steel Sports. So Steel Sports are owned by Steel Partners, a typical American business kind of model. So Steel Partners are on the stock exchange, and part of the Steel Partners is a sports section. And the owner wants to make the sports section the Disney World of sport. So I spoke to him. I spoke to a couple of people, and they wanted someone to come over and kind of head up their curriculum and player and coach development, which is something, you know, I've got experience in, obviously, working for the Football Association of Wales previously. And it was just something I couldn't turn down, really. It was a chance to come and live in a different country, a different culture, see another country and learn and develop further. So, yeah, I've been here into my third year now. It's gone really quickly. Still looking at and obviously checking the scores and things at home on a regular basis. But yeah, here I am.
Torn loyalties tomorrow night now with Wales playing America in the friendly?
No, not at all. You know, I want Wales to win, of course. If we don't, I'm sure I'll get some stick over here. But yeah, no, it's going to be an exciting game. The American the American team are decent. I think they've got a lot of young players. They've got a player playing for Barcelona, for Dortmund, you know, Pulisic at Chelsea. So they're an exciting young team, and I think they'll do well over the next 5 or 6 years.
That leads me quite nicely into the next question, really. How is the football or the soccer in America at the moment in terms of standard and yourself from a personal perspective?
Yeah, I'll try not to say soccer as I talk through this. Yeah, it's good. You know, it's big business over here. It's massive. You know, boys, girls. The girls national team obviously have had great success recently, and the men obviously trying to catch them up. It's there's some quality players here, and there's some players, you know, in Steel United, the club that I look after. We're in about 8 different regions across the country, so I'm fortunate enough to be able to go and travel. We've got teams on the West Coast, in California and Seattle, and on the East Coast where I'm based. And you know, the quality of player is good. We've just started the national team last year, and we played in the Las Vegas tournament, and we drew 0-0 or 0-0 against Borussia Mönchengladbach's under-15s team. So, you know, there is talent out here, and our best players, you know, certainly would be able to cope in the British game.
It's almost like an untapped market, really, because obviously soccer is a big sport out there, but compared to like your NFLs, your basketballs and baseball, ice hockey, your big four almost, it's in such a saturated market out there, but there's a haven really of untapped potential as well.
No, it is. And do you know what? The NFL is interesting. So the NFL, with concussion obviously being a big thing at this moment in time over the last 5-6 years, you know, the amount of children playing American football has gone down. And, you know, soccer, football has benefited from that, and that's continuing to increase because people are getting turned off by obviously the reports of concussion that the American footballers get. So, you know, it is growing. But even then, there's still, you know, in Massachusetts alone, we've got, you know, nearly, you know, 500-600 children. We've got about 2,500 to 3,000 players across the country in our system. And that's just one club, you know, so you can imagine the other clubs across the country. So yeah, it's a growing game, and it's only going to get better, I think.
Fantastic. And obviously it's been a bit bonkers over in America at the moment. It's been on the news, nothing else on the news except America. What's it been like with the election coverage and everything going on at the moment?
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been and it still is. You know, we still don't know. I think Biden has been declared the winner, but obviously, you know, the Republicans and Trump aren't too happy about that. So it's mental, really. You know, and with COVID and everything else going on, it's been a challenging time for everyone in America, really. But you know, hopefully with the news of a vaccine on the horizon, hopefully, you know, we can get back to normality sooner rather than later.
Fantastic, and quite agree with that as well. So let's take a trip back down memory lane. Let's take you back to you growing up as a youngster. What are your first memories in football, and who are your main influences growing up?
That's a good question. I mean, I started playing for the school, like probably most people do, really. There was always a saying at the Football Association of Wales: if you don't fall in love with the game by the age of 11, you probably never will. So I'm guessing I fell in love with the game when I was 7 or 8, and yeah, just played local, played for the county, played for Anglesey in North Wales as I was growing up. Osian Roberts was the football development officer at the time, and he was my coach. So obviously he's had a great influence on me and my career since an early age. So yeah, and that's how it kind of happened, playing for schools, clubs. So I played for Anglesey in North Wales. And the biggest thing that happened to me, I went on work experience when I was 14, as most people still do at school. And I went for 2 weeks with Osian and the football development team on Anglesey. And I just knew after that couple of weeks that that's the kind of avenue I needed to go down. I probably wasn't going to make it as a player. So I did my Football Leaders Award, my level 1 at an early age. I was really young when I did it. And I started coaching for Osian, kind of casually, soccer schools and different things from the age of 14, 15. And yeah, that's how it kind of materialised. And then, as you go through life, I started the academy in Llangefni, and then I became assistant manager at Llangefni. I think I was about 24 at the time. We won the Cymru Alliance. We weren't allowed to come up to the Welsh Prem. And then around that time, I did the A licence. And Alan Morgan was on the A licence. So that was my link with Aberystwyth. He was the assistant manager at Bangor at the time, and then soon became the manager at Aberystwyth. And we obviously had a good relationship and still do. And then, I had a call off him and asked if I'd be interested in coming down to support. And it was a no-brainer for me. It was probably the next step.
As you said there, you were very, very young going into the coaching business, and you were one of the first people to get the A licence, and one of the youngest people to get the A licence and the Pro licence. From your perspective, how proud were you to have those achievements on your CV?
Yeah, I was proud. Obviously, I always kind of have targets in my life, and the target was to start the Pro licence by the age of 30, and I think I started it when I was, 3 or 4 months before I was 30. So I managed to do that. Proud, yes, but also I think, Aberystwyth were brave. The people that made the decisions were brave to take a chance on me, because ultimately at the time that's what it was. I was unproven in the Welsh Premier League. I was an assistant manager, and I'd been an assistant manager for 3 years in Aberystwyth, and that had helped me understand the league, the pace of the game. I think sometimes it's important to understand that before you make the step, whether you come from another country or whether you come from another league and become a manager straight away. I valued that 3 years of getting to know the league and the players and the teams. And I'd like to think that maybe, me being an opportunity and doing quite well in Aberystwyth helped other younger managers within the league. So Jared Harvey went in soon after at Port Talbot, Chris Hughes went to Newtown, Mel McGuinness went to Rhyl, who was very young. Ewan Williams had a chance recently at Llandudno. So, I'd like to think that I may have supported and helped. If I was a complete disaster, I'm sure the clubs would look at it and like, well, he was young, he had a chance, we're not going to make the same mistake. But yeah, so I'm thankful for the bravery of the directors that gave me an opportunity. And, as it went quite well. We were able to, move forward as a club, and those are the managers I'd like to think, got an opportunity.
As you said there, it was a big risk they took on you, and the first game it played off quite spectacularly, 3-0 win away at Rhyl. Silenced a lot of doubters up that day as well. That must have been a great feeling to start off winning so well.
Yeah, and I remember, right, the pre-season hadn't gone brilliant. We played Chris Venables as a number 10, and it didn't really work out. My first game in pre-season against Barmouth. We won the game, and I remember it was actually Tommy Morgan and Marion Appleton. It's great to see Marion back involved with the club as well. And Tommy just said to me, and obviously I've been assistant to Tommy the seasons before, and he was like, listen, don't worry about pre-season. Pre-season doesn't really, dictate too much. And lo and behold, yeah, the first game, it kind of clicked away at Rhyl. And the one memory I have of that, and it's a strange one, Krzysztof Malbolski, who we brought back to the club, was involved in a challenge, and I think the Rhyl left back came up with his foot really high and caught Krzysztof in the head. And I remember one of the first people on the scene was Barry Morgan, and everyone else followed him. And I thought, do you know what? Yeah, this has got real good makings of a team, because they were all over there trying to help Krzysztof and, and then supporting each other. And I felt, yeah, this camaraderie and this togetherness is going to get us far. Unfortunately, we won the game 3-0, and yeah, it's probably one of my proudest moments.
You spoke briefly there about Tommy Morgan and Miriam Appleton. How useful is it to have people of that experience to just fall back onto and have those type of discussions to help you in your young managerial career?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I'd moved down a couple of years previous to Aberystwyth through the FAW Trust as well, so it was great to combine my Aberystwyth work with the Trust work. So, you know, there was some great, but still is great people involved in the Junior League there. You know, Russell and Dilwyn work so hard, and it's, you know, you look at the players that are now in the Welsh squad, you know, that have come through. It's through design. That's not through fault. You know, that's through design. You know, that kind of working together and working as a club and as a junior league certainly helps these players coming through. And yeah, I was always happy. Was on the phone to me, which was great. And I knew, you know, I'd worked with Tommy, and I was thankful for Tommy because he brought some good players into the club. And I think, you know, the success that we had in that first year was down, you know, to Tommy in terms of the recruitment that he brought. He brought Venables in the season before. You know, he brought a couple of good players in. And by the time I took over, they'd settled down, and we saw the best of them.
As you said there, that first season, very successful season. Narrowly missed out on top six, but got to a Welsh Cup final and qualified for Europe through that route. So how would you assess it looking back now?
Yeah, well, that was my probably biggest regret, is not making the top six in that first year. Because on the field, we made it. Yeah. We got enough points, right? So the players, and that's who I felt for really more than anyone else. Not me, not the club, but the players. Because the players had worked their socks off. I remember going to Carmarthen and winning 3-0. Yeah. The game where Mike Lewis couldn't kick the ball out of his 18-yard box. If you remember, with the wind, it went over his head.
Still a quality clip on YouTube now with that.
Yeah, no, I know. You got a few views. And I remember winning 3-0. Jeff Calloway scored a couple of goals, and we were good on the day, and we thought we'd kind of done it. And we always had a target when I was there, and I'm sure, you know, managers have targets now. We knew if we got 1.5 points per game in the first 22 games, we would make it. So no other club has got 33 points and not made the top six. So we had 1.5 points per game in the back of our mind for the 3 seasons that I was there. And knowing that we would get that, half the points, we would be in the top six. And yeah, it was just a shame really that we weren't able to get into the top six because of, you know, something that happened, you know, that the players weren't involved in really. And it was tough. But having said that, you know, they answered everything really, because I did wonder whether we'd go on a little dip after that. But yeah, we won the bottom 6, got to the Welsh Cup final. And, you know, that was a tough day, but ultimately looking back at it, it was a proud day because we went toe-to-toe with TNS. You know, we were 2-0 up. And if I'm being honest, TNS had a lot of possession, and I've looked back on it a few times, you know, and they get the penalty and they score quickly straight after, you know. But yeah, that last 15 minutes, I think, was down to fitness more than anything else. They were professional, they were full-time, you know, and we worked so hard to get up 2-0 in the game, and we just weren't able to hold out. But yeah, that's certainly a proud moment as well.
And following that TNS game, we were the last team to qualify for Europe through that Welsh Cup route, and it led us to Derry City. So it wasn't an ideal trip to Derry, with goalkeeper with Mike Lewis harshly, in my opinion, being sent off after just 15 minutes. But what were your thoughts on that trip itself?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. I think it was harsh. I think you were right, and it's just a shame. You know, we started on the back foot. But we got ourselves into the game. It was 0-0. I remember Craig Williams getting in behind their fullback a couple of times and putting a couple of crosses into the box. And then, like, we were growing into the game, and we were comfortable with what we were doing. And then, obviously, you know, I think it was Rory Patterson who went through for them and won the penalty. And down to 10 men away from home in Europe, it's tough, you know. And so it proved. But again, you know, I seen Barry Town this year coming in for a lot of criticism. Well, you know, and Gav Chesterfield makes some great points. You know, similar for us. The preparation, I mean, we played Porthmadog in June, who, to be fair, did a favour to us and got a team together to play us. We played Bangor, we played TNS. I think Derry were 18 games into their league, right? Absolutely. So, and I think some people underestimate that. You know, if you've played the game or you've managed in the game, you understand in terms of match fitness and sharpness.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just how much that matters, you know. And there's been talk about summer football. I'm a big advocate of it. I've mentioned it before, but Yeah, and that struggle. And once you go 1 or 2-0 down, and that match fitness tells a little bit, and the sharpness, it is tough. And then, it was great to see a packed house in Park Avenue for the return. The fans stayed with us, which was fantastic. And we had a couple of chances. So I've seen Sherbs' interview and Sean James, they both mentioned, Venables had the header that just went wide. I think Jeff Calloway had an opportunity. And I think they scored a scrappy goal from a corner, and then it was game over. But yeah, there were just opportunities there where, you look back, you think, if only.
Absolutely. And as you said there, with Barry and yourselves, it's easy to hide behind those, but fair play to yourself and Garvin Chesterfield this summer. You both came out, fronted those things out, and made real good points of where we need to change the direction attack, possibly if we want to look to get further success in Europe.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's not an excuse. I mean, even if we'd have won that game, I would still, I think I was an advocate of it beforehand, and I still am now, a few years after that result. It's just, you look at the other teams that we play against in the first qualifying rounds, Faroe Islands, the Irish leagues, they all play a calendar similar to summer football. So, it's something that I think we do need to look at again. I actually thought this was an opportunity to do it with COVID coming in, and how bad that is. And obviously with things stopping and starting, I wondered whether it'd be a good opportunity in terms of the top league to go, no, listen, let's hold on. Let's get the vaccine, and hopefully by March time and go March to November. And that would be an opportunity to trial it while making more sense in terms of, the environment that we live in at this moment in time. That's not happened, but, I'm sure people will continue to talk about summer football, and it may happen one day.
I'm firmly of your opinion as well that summer football will be hugely beneficial, but that's another discussion for another day, I suppose. That following season, then we made an absolutely blistering start of the season, and we finished the split. I think I'm right in saying we were second going into the split. We were leading the charge at one point, and it was a very good season on the pitch. How did you see that season?
Yeah, I think the front four was. I don't think many other teams could beat our front four in terms. We had Mark Jones, who I have to say was, in terms of Chris Venables scoring the goals, deservedly so. Mark Jones was a great foil for him. Took defenders away, unselfish runs. So we had Mark, we had Chris Venables as the 10 by then. We had Craig Williams on the left and Jeff Calloway on the right. So we had a little bit of everything in that front four. We had pace with Jeff Calloway, we had craft with Craig Williams, and we had just desire with Chris Venables to get in the box and score goals. And that mix kind of worked well. And I remember when I took over, I did feel we needed to improve in wider areas. And I remember meeting Jeff Calloway down in the Village Hotel in Cardiff, and Craig Williams too. And those were two of my first signings at the club. And I think, they went on to do really well. And yeah, we started well. I think we played Kevin Druid's maybe first game away.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was Kevin Druid's.
That's it. And I think we won 4 or 5-1 or something like that. And I think Chris Venables scored 4 goals that day. Was it 3 or 4? One of the two. And it was interesting because a couple of people were talking before that season. Chris had just won the Golden Boot the season before, and a couple were saying, it's just a one-off. Midfielders can't win the Golden Boot on a regular basis. And the next thing he goes and scores 3 or 4 goals in his first game. So he shut them up quite quickly. But yeah, no, it was good. It was a good mix of local players. I look back and you look at people like Sean James, Corbs, Sherbs, Jeff, Cledan, Ridian Davis was in and around the team. Jack Rimmer, I gave Jack Rimmer his debut.
Yeah.
So it was important. It was an important mix for us to make sure that we did keep that local identity where we could, while bringing, players in to supplement that. I see Gav is going down a similar route, which is great in terms of some of the local younger players. And then, supplementing that by some players from away. So fingers crossed it works out this season.
And obviously, I can't mention that season without talking about probably will feature as one of the low points of your Arbor career. That Newtown game. Sum that up for us. Yeah,
it was tough. It was a game where, and I think someone else said they had a strange feeling going into it. I had a strange feeling as well. I think we'd beaten Newtown 3-2 at home previously that season. I think Ross Stevens scored a great goal on his debut. We were 2-0 down. We won 3-2. But I think it was 1-1. And then obviously we had Jeff Calloway sent off, which was tough for us. And obviously when you're down to 10 men in any situation, it's tough. But yeah, and I think then, you lose that. It's tough if you qualify for Europe, 2 years on the bounce. I think I saw Thomas Crockett say, in terms of the finances coming into the club, that could be the game changer. So to get so close, it was tough for us. But hey, listen, that's football. We've had some and we had some good moments and some moments where being in the final itself again was something that I felt was a great achievement. It was the first time we qualified for the top 6 that season.
Absolutely.
I think we finished 4th, so we broke into the top 4. So again, it does demonstrate, that it was a good season, and unfortunately, people go back to that Newtown game quite rightly, and to be fair, in the semi-final, we won. We beat Connors Key 3-2. I think we were 2-0 down with about 7-8 minutes to go, and we managed to pull that one round. With all the games that we played, and the Europe starting previously, and we had a small squad. And I think ultimately, in the end, we just fell short because of that.
And that led us into your final season with Arbor. Again, another respectable season, another good season. We finished 8th overall in that season. But you left Arbor with a plethora of good memories, I assume.
Yeah, 100%. I just remember that, the people that go and mention quite a lot of the time. Of course, I had a great relationship with the board. Tony Bates was the chairman and was fantastic support to me. Donald Kane and Di Caprice were all integral in that period, but people like Phil and Ruth in the kitchens. I mean, one thing that they brought in was that they would cook food for all the players after training, and we would be there for an hour, 90 minutes after training. All of us, the ones that had 2 hours, 3 hours to travel, and the local boys would stay and have food and build that camaraderie and team spirit, and the environment that people like Ruth and Phil set in terms of the pasta and the food, demonstrated the professional kind of outlook, and people like that kind of go unnoticed. I think sidelights with the kit, just so many people, and of course, unfortunately the great Emir who's obviously passed away, and so yeah, just a lot of good memories. The car journeys up with Thomas Crockett. Listen, we had to win, not for the 3 points, to stop him talking on the way home and moaning. I'm sure you've had that as well.
That one, yeah.
I'm sure you've had that as well, yeah. It wasn't too much the 3 points, it was stopping him moaning on the way home. But listen, everyone's passionate, and I valued those trips up with him as well. A great guy and a great servant to the club too.
Fantastic. And along, as you said there, you trips up with Thomas Crockett leads me nicely into your work outside of Arbor at the time, was with the FAW Trust. What was it you were doing with the FAW around that era? So
around that era, I was involved in coach education. So I had numerous jobs with the Football Association of Wales. The last one I held was the senior coach educator manager. So I would kind of oversee coach education from level 1 to level 4. So rewriting the qualifications and the courses, and then supporting the mentoring program on the A license, and coaching and tutoring on the A license. People like Wyn Thomas came through that. Corbs came through it. Barry Morgan has just recently gone through it too. So, Gavin Allen's come through it, and I was on the pro license. So, there's a lot of people, in and around Aberystwyth now with good qualifications that can push the club forward. But yeah, so I was involved in that more than anything else, working with coaches, and it was a great time for me. I was able to go to different clubs over the border in England, to Manchester City, Leeds, and work with these coaches and mentor and support their development, which only, improved me, so I was going out there as a two-way thing. And, when you see the environments at Manchester City and Leeds, you can only learn from things like that. So yeah, it was with a heavy heart that I left the FAW Trust after about 9 years. So it was a long time.
And with that in mind, obviously we did a bit of work you've done bits and pieces of work with Scorio as well since leaving Aberystwyth. Has any designs on returning to the dugout as the manager anytime soon?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. I mean, I did receive 2 or 3 chances to come back involved once I left Aberystwyth, but the timing wasn't right. Obviously, moving to America, it's slightly different, but you don't know what's around the corner, in terms of the future. It does feel like a little bit of unfinished business, if I'm being honest. Whether I finish that business off or not, I'm not too sure. I'm enjoying my time in America at this moment in time, and I'm focused on the work here. But obviously, keeping an eye out, it's important, because you never know, as I say, what's around the corner. And if I come back to Wales and the UK ever, it will be something I will probably look at. But it's just the question of if I'm going to move back or not, and if I do, will it be 5 years, 10 years? Who knows?
Ian, thank you very, very much. Diolch yn galon am damser heno. Before you go, I just want to ask you a couple of quick fire questions like we finished all our interviews with. So my first quick fire question, who's the best player you've ever coached?
See, that's a tough question. So I coached some of the national teams at a younger age, and I remember a few sessions that I did. Ethan Ampadu was part of the group, and he was very, very good. You could tell. I think he was playing for the Welsh under-19s when he was 17s, and he came through the system from an early age. So yeah, he would be one that kind of stands out as, you know, having excellent, you know, ability even back then.
What's your best Arbor memory?
Probably that first game of the season against Thrill. You know, there was a lot of doubters, there was a lot of people talking, a lot of noise, and just to win 3-0 kind of, you know, set the precedent really of the season that we had. So yeah, definitely that 3-0 victory.
Good Riddle side as well, that was as well.
It was, yeah. I think they just come up, so it was also their first game back in the league, and you're always wary of, you know, going away first game of the season to a team that came back. And we actually played Druids, as I said earlier, the year after, who had just come up as well.
Anfan didn't know the year after that.
Anfan didn't know the year after that, yeah. So we always, it was interesting. You could tell we were going to play first game. Just depends who won the league the previous year. So.
What's your least favourite? What's your worst Arbor memory?
I would probably say not, you know, that first season, not qualifying for the top six, you know, having done all the work on the field to do that and getting the points necessary to do it. I still, when people ask me, I still claim that as finishing in the top six.
Absolutely. I remember, like, I was heartbroken, and I was, like, as obviously supporter, but compared to what you guys were going through at the time, that was devastating. So. And
I remember, right, when we heard, because I think Thrill got there, was it Thrill up or Talbot that got there in front of us? I think it was Thrill that got into the top six in front of us, and they played Port Talbot, a rearranged game in the league, and we were playing in the cup on the same day, live on TV. I think we were playing Avonlido in the cup, probably the third round of the cup, and we'd literally heard the news 40 minutes before our game that we weren't in the top six. So you can imagine the players and the management and everyone. We had to go out and play a game in 40 minutes, right? Knowing that, you know, the players had achieved what they'd achieved, and unfortunately and unfairly not being able to be in the top six. It was tough, and I think we were 1-0 down at half time against Avonlido. I think we went on to win 5-1, but it was a concern that day at half time that we weren't going to be able to turn it around. But again, you know, the players put that to the back of their mind and did well in the second half. But yeah, not getting to the top six in the first season would probably be the biggest regret.
Sum up Arbor in 3 words.
That's a good question again. I would say friendships, memories, and I'm going to give you 4, and good times, you know. Fantastic. Because I think that's what the abiding memories when I look back.
We'll put a hyphen between good times, it's fine. We'll count. And finally, can you pick an all-time 5-a-side team of players you've worked with?
Yeah, I'm going to go just Aberystwyth rather than players I've worked with. I would go Mike Lewis in goal. Maybe not necessarily for the time he was with the club, but I think he was still young at the time. I think we need to remember that. And goalkeepers obviously mature later than outfield players. But you look at him now, you know, playing week in, week out. I think he's played 250 games in the Welsh Premier League and playing for Barry Town, so and having success there. So for that reason and the developments and improvements as he's got older, I'm going to go Mike in goal. I'm going to go Wyn Thomas at the back. It's 5-a-side, so there aren't any balls in head height, right? So you won't have to head it, but you would head everything anyway. But yeah, we need him on the field to just make sure the other players are in order and doing what we've asked them to do. Midfield, I'm going to go with Chris Venables as an obvious one. And I'm going to go with Barry Morgan next to him. I think in a 5-a-side team, you need someone that's going to work really hard and just close down the opposition. And I don't think there's anyone better in my time than Barry to go and press the ball and win the ball back for us. I'm going to go with Mark Jones up front just because of his work rate, and, you know, ultimately his goal scoring record when you look back in his Aberystwyth days was good as well. He was hitting double figures every season too, so that would be my top 5. Mike Lewis in goal, Wyn Thomas in defence, Benners and Barry Morgan in midfield, and Mark Jones as the forward.
Not a bad side at all, that.
It's not bad. No, it's not bad.
They'd get a few wins. They'd get a fair few wins, that team.
Yeah, and to be fair, you know, you look at like Luke Sherborne was obviously not potential to get in that midfield. Craig Williams in terms of, you know, what he did. Jeff Calloway in terms of bringing the team a bit of pace. But I just think those, you know, kind of were the ones that I think that stood out in my time.
Ian, thank you so much. Diolch o galon am damter hyn. Mae'n bod yn pleser da land y ti. Am gwych I clywed bod ti'n neud mor dda dy hun am mas yn America hefyd. There's always a warm welcome for you at Park Avenue whenever you want it and whenever you're home. So hopefully we'll be able to invite you down soon whenever you are back in the UK.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. Good luck to Gav and Barry and Corbs and the team. And, you know, keep looking out for them. And, you know, as Gav says, a little bit of patience, I think. And, the future years with the players that are coming through look promising. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Thank you all for watching this evening. Diolch o galon amser Ian a cymer ofal. Take care, guys.